with someone special. He's special to us as an organization. He's on our board of advisors, and he's very, very famous in this town of San Diego and all across the world. As a matter of fact, he's going to tell you about how famous he is himself. Mr. David Corbin, big round of applause.
I am so famous, it's ridiculous. Don't you know who I think I am? I'm telling you. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of businesses are represented here? I'm curious.
We have people in the media. We have people that are clairvoyant. We have personal development types. We have people that train people to be better salesmen. Is that correct? Yes, sir.
Among other things, yes.
Yes, among other things. Got it. Yes. So a wide range.
Cool.
Manny does business in the app world. Online.
Whose business has not been represented here yet by Ryan? What type of business is he in?
Legacy story writing.
Legacy story writing. And who's the recipient of that? Family or?
Family, generations in the future. It's a book that they can then leave behind so people know what their life stories and life advice is about.
Oh, that's really
very cool. What other? I'm curious. What other?
Alon Torres is a consultant. Brett Fogel is one of our sponsors. Yes. Click and Grow Rich. Online.
Any other industries not discussed yet? Anybody doing something that's different?
MLM.
MLM. Art. And professional speaking.
Professional speaking.
Absolutely. Who else?
Highway safety.
Highway safety product. What else?
All the photographers at SeaWorld, well, I don't work at San Diego Zoo, my photographers, as well as San Diego's largest wind farm.
Look at the diversity. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Social media marketing.
Social media marketing.
Print magazine.
Fitness.
Fitness. Could you say yours again?
Oh, magazine.
Magazines. Okay. And fitness. Yeah, cool. That's the diversity. This is the beauty of entrepreneurship.
This is your speciality.
This is what turns me on is I fully believe that this great nation of ours is at a breakpoint, which has all of the characteristics of a breakdown. Feel it carefully. But has all the opportunities of a breakthrough when the entrepreneur grabs control back. When she learns the skills, when she takes inventory of the skills that are required of her to kick ass, and then she gets serious enough to get naked with herself, himself, and inventory themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 on every one of those skills. And whether an 8 or 9 or a 10, cha-ching, that's cool. But whether a 3 or a 4, they get to work. That's part of our mission.
And you were talking about at a couple summits ago is one of my favorite things that you talk about, and it's surviving as an entrepreneur at this current time. And you talk about flexibility as one of the strongest, adaptability is one of the strongest characteristics.
We say, fill in the blank, survival of the
Fittest.
which is survival of the fittest is what we're taught. And I just drove down from my home in Powell, and I didn't see any dinosaurs. Now, they were fit. I didn't see any Oldsmobiles. I didn't see any Searses or Sears Cadillac. There's a lot of stuff that was fit at one time and they ain't around. MySpace, hello. It's survival of the most flexible and adaptive. You change or die. I gotta tell you, yesterday, had lunch with an amazing friend of mine. He started a college here, New York and Chicago. He sold it, put a bunch of millions of dollars in his pocket. The school is called PCOM. It's still around. Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. They're one of the de facto standards. Do you know it?
Yeah,
you know
I went there.
You went there. Do you know Rick Gold?
Yes.
Yeah, so Rick is a dear friend of mine. We had lunch yesterday. After that, I decided I'm not going home. I'm going to go to the cigar bar down there and smoke a cigar. I walk in, I run into my buddy Mikey Shevelenko. Some of you guys know Mikey. He owns 31 IHOPs down here. Started as an immigrant with nothing, 31 IHOPs. He was telling me about, we were talking about flex and changing. It was the craziest thing. I walked in, and he was with two of his friends who were FBI agents, and I walked in, and he goes, holy shit, we were just talking about you. What were you talking about? He says, about branding. And he owns 31 IHOPs. Now, does anybody know the story about what's going on with IHOPs lately?
Rebranding.
They're what?
They're rebranding.
Does anybody know?
IHOB.
I what?
They're gonna sell
IHOB. IHOB. International House of
Breakfast.
Burgers. Let me tell you something. They were doing okay. In fact, in the last 3 years, they're doing very well. Why the hell would they change that? You know why? He told me this yesterday. They got over, if you have a pen, write this down, 250 billion impressions on that fake campaign. They never planned on changing it. They wanted people talking about, I can't believe you changed burgers, your pancakes, we love your pancakes, you moron, your pancakes are the best, what's wrong with you?
Wait till they fuck people find out.
Bottom line is, their stock has gone through the roof. It's interesting. I did a little research on it today. So what's the point? Even if you're doing well, you got to change. And anticipate. And see if you can't. The answer to my stuff in business is over here, behind Ryan. I can't see it. Entrepreneurs, you need to learn how to look around corners. What does that mean? Constantly asking yourself the question, what am I missing?
Can I ask you to ask the audience a question related to that? I'm trying to identify someone that's going to get one of your books. That's what I'm trying to ask a good question. You get a book from this swap genius.
Yeah, I just want to make the point before you ask any questions.
You do.
And that is that we as entrepreneurs work in tough situations. It's tough to be a successful entrepreneur. It's damn tough when you're carrying extra stuff here and here and here and here. Purge yourself. Be the unencumbered entrepreneur. Got it? Because we need you. Yeah, question?
What would you say the biggest mistake people make when creating a new brand?
To me, it's as simple as this. Errant assumptions. Errant assumptions. You don't test the assumptions, and you expect that because you love it, it's your blue dolphin. Did you see my little blue dog? You expect that everybody's going to love it. And I think errant assumptions are the root cause of most business failure, not just in branding.
Can we tell him what he's won?
You've won the home version of Preventing Brand Slaughter. That's right. You're either building your brand or killing your brand, but nothing is neutral. Now back to you. And specifically, if I could I'll just answer your question a little bit more specific. When we brand, we forget to ask the most important penetrating question. And here's what it is. And I don't want to overcomplicate it because it's complex. And the question is this. Who gives a shit? That's the question. And when you ask that question, and you answer that question, and you test that assumption, you'll save yourself a lot of heartburn. And then when you do, everything that you do, once you establish that brand, everything must support that brand. You're either building the brand or you're killing it. Brand integrity or brand slaughter. You had a question over there, Louis.
No, I just want to say thank you for bringing this up because I've been to so many events and they talk about law of attraction, this, that, and the other. No one teaches the art of good decision making. You can be motivated as possible, but if you don't make good decisions, you're going to freaking sink. So my question is, if you could name the top 3 things, other than what you just said, that you think make for good quality decisions, what would you say they are?
Top 3
The top 3.
that make for quality decisions.
Yeah.
That's good.
Number 1, craft with as much precision as you can your hypothesis, right? Always craft the hypothesis or the question with great clarity. That's the starting point. Because again, assumptions kick your ass. They kick your ass. So it's test, test, test. So craft your question. Then look at the question from 3 different areas. What is your instinct? What is your negative? What is your positive? Your instinct is, this is good because. Your positive is, I love it because. Now, in one of the books I didn't bring, I wrote a book called Illuminate, Harnessing the Positive Power of Negative Thinking.
Awesome book.
Then you start arguing against that decision. You got it?
Yes, sir.
So if you decide you're going to change this operating system, that's great. Argue against it. Give every reason why it's never going to work. And that keeps you open. You ever heard people say, you know, in my considered opinion, and it's bullshit because they never even considered it. You're welcome.
He talks exactly like this. Now, a little bit of background and experience. Fortune 500 companies. You've been a consultant. You've been doing this for a little while.
A couple weeks now.
A couple weeks now.
1979.
1979. That's the year I was born. I'm going to remember that from now on. 1979. Wow. So 39 years.
Yeah.
Going on
It was
40.
the year before my daughter was born. I was running a company. None of you guys know this company, but years ago there was a company in San Diego called Dow Stereo.
I remember.
And if you remember, when you think music, think D-O-W Dow. People go, man, you sound like that guy. I go, no, I was that guy. And back in 1979, we were putting more stuff up our nose other than our pinkies. You know what I mean? And so in 1979, we got pregnant. I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And there's some people in this room that I know, and they know that I'm very serious about the commitment to personal health, family relationships. So I got out of it, and I've been consulting ever since. You had a question, somebody? Yes.
So what's your advice on dealing with adversity in business?
Dealing with adversity business is called business.
She said adversity in business.
You're either coming out of a storm, in a storm, or heading into a storm. And so in Grandma and Grandpa's life, change would happen. And they'd go, oh boy, this sucks. This really sucks. I know, ain't this terrible? And then they get through it and they go, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then a couple of years later, something goes down. Now it's change on top of change on top of change on top of change. And by the way, if you don't have a strategy to manage your emotions through the process of change, you'll end up working for somebody who does. And I'd be happy to give you a 4-step model: denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment on how to work through change. But dealing with adversity in business is being in business. And anybody who is adversity averse should never get into business. Go work for someone else who's able to do that, and then you could support them in that process, and there's nothing wrong with that. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It is a contact sport, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's awesome, by the way. When developing your personal brand, how do you recommend? Let me rephrase the question. I'm developing a personal brand, but I also expose a lot of dark secrets about myself. Do you advise against that, or do you recommend you keep some things private?
Yeah, like
how deep do you go? I guess is the question.
well, okay, I'm wearing women's underwear right now. Okay, now you probably didn't need to know that. Yeah, I just, it's no, you don't go that, crazy. There are some brands that are enhanced with authentic sharing, right? But who gives a crap about that if it doesn't build you in a way that I know or feel confident that you can serve me? 3 letters, baby. PSI. Personal self-interest. Everybody is focused on their personal self-interest. Mother Teresa, that selfish babe, she called herself selfish because she did what made her feel good. Her personal self-interest was feel good. Just so happens what made her feel good was to help the indigent. So coming back from your personal brand, you got to solve a problem or meet my personal self-interest, or I don't give a shit about you, says the market. I love you. But the market says, I don't give a shit about you.
Right.
So you got to be branding in a way that they know that you are the solution or the conduit to the solution of what they want, need, got to have, aspire to, etc. So I can only answer that question by asking other questions. Who is your target? What problem are you solving? Do they know they have that problem? What's their awareness quotient? What's their ability to pay for it quotient? What's their character to take action to solve for that? Then how do you come in with the white hat that you're the guy? And how do I know behind the sternum to my gut that you are that person? Whatever you find to vibe, I do believe in the law of attraction, but I don't believe in it in the way people have, in my opinion, misinterpreted. So how does your vibe match with their vibe so they get you? And when you get that they get you and you get how they get you, you do that on purpose. I do a whole routine on the God only knows factor sometime. And if you want to know about the God only knows factor, text to 55678 and text the message DMC2. You'll get an ebook. You will not get marketed. I do no marketing. But if you text to 55678, I think that's it, and you text the message DMC2, you'll get a book, Psyched on Service, and in it, it talks about the God only knows factor. And when you find out what your God only knows factor is, then you do that on purpose. Yes, ma'am?
Say that again, the numbers.
I think it's 55678 is like make believe that's the phone number you're texting to, and the message is DMC2, David Mark Corbin 2.
All right, one more question.
Good. I think I've solved every problem in the world.
Problem solved. Yes, Michelle.
Do you have a? I'm
Do you have?
There's something. So I shared this the first time I saw you speak. You're just so special. Is there? Do you have a spiritual practice?
Do you have a spiritual practice behind who you are?
So let me say thank you for noticing. Seriously. I indeed, my ritual starts the night before. My morning ritual starts the night before, where I have my big bell glass of water, not fluorinated water, and I have some supplements, which are enzymes that go through the blood system at night, and something that builds the telomeres, and blah, blah, blah. At 60, I'll be 66 this summer. I want to make sure that I'm in great shape because this is my favorite lifetime, and I figure I only have about 50 or 60 years left. But in the morning is where my spiritual practice really begins, and it goes all day. Get out of bed, no matter how much I got to tinkle. My knees and my head hit the floor like our Muslim brothers and sisters, and I give thanks for whatever comes to mind. That's where it starts. That sets. Here's the rocket, baby, and it's on its way to Maui, right? Who wants to go to Maui? But if it's off by 2 degrees, it ends up in Shanghai. Or, you see what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with Shanghai or Tokyo, but I was on my way to Maui. When you do this, it sets your trajectory for the day like you can't believe. And then I go to the bathroom, clean my tongue, get back in bed, and do a meditation. Either silent meditation, I use something with binaural beats. I own a company that does something with the spoken word, with binaural beats. The words are scored by an Emmy Award-winning guy, and I've got Deepak Chopra. I've got Les Brown. I've got all these people talking to me whenever I want, with binaural beats and lights going on in my eyes. It's crazy. It's right now I'm getting my new version out of China, so I ain't talking about it, but someday you'll hear about it and you go, I remember when Crazy Little Bald Man talked about that. Very cool. It's called Neuro Boost, by the way. NeuroBoost. It's awesome. It's a company that's been around for a while. I own a third of the company now because I've been using it. We're retooling it. And right now, I'll tell you, it's the coolest thing I'm sourcing. Bose has this thing, and there's little earbuds. They're called sleep buds. They go in your ear like an in-the-ear hearing aid, and it connects on Bluetooth through your thing. And you can sleep with them.
Wow.
So I've got sleep mask, LED lights, brings you deeper like a monk. And then I've got Deepak and others speaking to you about relaxation, rest. I've got the sleep doctor. I got Bob Proctor, and I got all these people in there that talk to you in the most receptive you there is. When you're in this, like, whoa, without drugs. Figure it out. Huh?
It's
All right.
really cool. So let's make a little room here.
We'll bring Mitch.
Yeah. bring
Yeah,
Mitch
this is
up.
cool.
And then yeah. So
All right.
Mitch,
You're up,
come on
Mitch.
Mitch, is it Axelrod?
Yeah.
Axelrod. No, you sit next to your buddy there.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll just.
I am so glad
Here we
that
go.
Mitch is here. Are you going to give this away?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. So, so let me just tell you real quick about this dude and why I'm so excited that he's here. I just met him.
Outside, right? Wasn't it Broadway?
What year did we meet?
What were you selling?
1988.
A million years ago. I was partners with a guy named Brian Tracy. This guy over here, another amazing thought leader, Rick Sims. Most amazing mind and human asset management, etc. And anyway, we had this business, and there were people who were becoming, if you will, distributors of our materials. And Mitch had already been a consultant and whatnot. He wanted to team up. We teamed up. Then in our conference in Maui that summer, he did a speech on sales that had me and Brian and others sitting there like this. You ever see this? The guy's an amazing thought leader in sales. So
The name of his book is The New Game of Selling. Your ticket to win the new game.
So let's throw the question to Mitch about sales. And that is, a lot of people talk about sales. How the hell is your model, philosophy, or whatever different? And what can people take away? What sort of nuggets could you give out?
Well, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you how it got started. In 1978, which I can see some of you weren't actually yet, a sparkle in the eye. I came out of college and I made 5,000 cold calls in the garment center of Manhattan. And I didn't make one sale. I was selling something nobody wanted to buy called facsimile. How many of you had a fax machine in 1978?
Not then.
Right, here is the worst part. You couldn't sell one of them. Who are you going to fax to? Right? So you walk in, and so the first thing I learned was I made 5,000 cold calls, and I said, I'm never going to make another cold call again. There's got to be a better way. And I made a promise to myself that if I ever discovered how to sell, I would actually write about it, teach others, okay? And here's why I got into sales. And by the way, how many of you are in sales? Okay, how many of you are not in sales? Put your hands up. Okay, that's good. You are in sales. You're in sales every minute of every day of your life. And people are judging you. They're making snap decisions. Do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they believe in you? Can you communicate what you do? I was listening to some of the questions that came up. I was writing some notes down. Fantastic questions, fantastic answers, always from this guy. But here's why I got into sales. I looked around and I said, who were the people who were most fulfilled, most satisfied, and wealthiest? And they all either owned a business, ran a business, or sold something. And I thought, if I could get good at this one skill, it doesn't matter what I do from a technical point of view, I can always sell myself. And so I spent the next really 10 years after I got out of that business, I went into financial planning. And I developed a model that was completely different than every other model that I had been taught. You know, trial closes, your pen or mine. How many of you feel really good when you hear that from other people? And so I developed a whole different system. It ultimately became the new game of selling. But I want to address a couple of things because one of the most proud things that I've accomplished is the quote at the top of that book. Brian was really one of our mentors, one of our original mentors. And that speech Dave was talking about, it was in that event that I actually produced my first product called 21 Ways to Double Your Sales. And I gave the very first album to Brian because he was really sort of the inspiration for me to recognize that the most valuable real estate in the world, okay, think about it for a second. What's the most valuable real estate in the world? Just shout it out. In fact, I'll tell you what, if you get this answer, you're going to get a book. What's the most valuable real estate in the world?
Our brain?
I'm sorry, what?
My brain?
Say that again.
My brain.
You pointed first. You're going to get the book. The most valuable real estate in the world is the 6 inches between your ears. Do you have any comprehension of what the 6 inches between your ears are worth? Well, I've made millions of dollars over my life. I've lost most of it in different ways. And all of it came from the creation of what's here. All right, and I'll tell you that over the course of my lifetime, I've made money, I've lost money, but I always have my intellect, and I can always fall back on the intellect that's sitting up here, my wisdom, my experience. And so all of this really started for me back when I was 16 years old. I developed my life's mantra at 16. I was flipping hamburgers and making eggs. I was known as a counter boy. Do you know what a counter boy is? Somebody who makes your food, serves your food over a counter in a luncheonette. Anybody ever hear of a luncheonette? Yeah. Obviously, I'm in the wrong part of the country here. If you were to go back east, New York, New Jersey, where we grew up, there's two things you'd find in abundance: luncheonettes and diners, right? And so I developed this ability to serve people. And so I'm serving a guy, and he comes up to me, he waves to me, he says, "Mitch, come here." And he stuffs a dollar bill in my hand. Now, you got to realize we're talking a long time ago. My average tip was 15 to 25 cents. And I said, "No, you already paid your bill." Imagine my mindset. I was ready to reject the dollar bill. I'd never gotten a dollar tip in my life. And he said to me, "Mitch, let me tell you something. You served me with a smile. You were clean as a whistle. All right? You were fast. You were efficient. And you were clean, and I just want you to know something. Remember this for the rest of your life. You're worth it." How many of you have ever in your life had somebody tell you you're worth it? One person in the room. Imagine how different our kids would grow up if they got the message from the time they could hear and understand you're worth it. I will tell you, it was probably 20 years before somebody else actually came up to me and said, "You're worth it," and they stroked me a bonus check. It took 20 years for that to happen, and it only happened twice in my life, where somebody actually said, "You're worth it." And so what I recognized in that moment, and has served me for the 40 years that I've been in business, my mantra comes down to a very simple phrase. And if you ever get stuck in business, and I could talk to you about the 4 different types of horsemen in business if we have time. If not, I'm going to suggest to you that you write these words down because they're words that I live by. I love and serve people, and they reward me with their money. I love and serve people, and they reward me with their money. And so what I've recognized in that time frame, working with Brian Tracy, working with another guy named Jay Abraham, which some of you may have heard of that name. Jay hired me to train his $15,000 proteges in 1989. And what I recognized is that but when, like Dave says, business is a contact sport. How do you recover when you've been down and out? I was a millionaire at 32 and bankrupt at 34. And my wife was 8 months pregnant. Okay? This is not a game for everybody, but there is a game here for everybody. And so if you can write these words down, if you ever get stuck, I love and serve people, and they reward me with their money. Is anybody here kind of would really like to be loved and served when they go out and buy a product?
Yeah.
Do you find that to be abundant today or scarce? Probably scarce.
Yeah.
So I want, how much, just want to make sure.
To wrap up pretty soon.
Okay, like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
There's something that I won't let him leave without sharing, because I quote him all the time. And being that he's here, I'd love for him to talk about the 3 components.
Okay. 1996. My wife and I divorced. I was on the road 80 to 100 days a year as a speaker. and I did not want to be a weekend dad. So I had to make a decision. And my goal was to continue to speak. I was getting paid really well. I was one of the top speakers in the world. I was at the top of my game and just going faster and higher and farther. But my soul was calling me home. And in the middle of my goal, which was to stay on the road and speak and train, and my soul, which was calling me home to be a full-time dad, was my role. And my role was stuck because I didn't know what to do. Should I pursue my goal, which meant I couldn't be home to raise my son, or do I serve my soul and stay home and then adjust my goal? And out of that torment, which took me about a year to make the decision, came an entirely new model of living I call the soul role goal of life. And what I realized is that all of our success formulas, our mantras, our messages are all about goal, goal, and more goal. Do you ever feel like you have a little bit of a hole in your soul? Do you ever feel that way at any point in time in your life? Well, guess what? You can't fill a hole in your soul with more goal. There's no goal big enough to fill a hole in your soul. And for me, the hole in my soul would have been I wouldn't be able to be with my son every other week and be a full-time stay-at-home dad. And that hole in my soul, no matter how much money I made, no matter how famous I got, no matter how renowned in the world I became, could never fill that hole in my soul if I didn't stay home. And so I made a decision, and I came up with a whole new model for life. And I'm going to give it to you. Here it is. You ready? Write it down. I did my soul setting and my role setting, and then I did my goal setting. And what I realized was that I could adapt my goal to my soul and my role. And my soul was calling me home to be a full-time stay-at-home dad, and my role was a full-time speaker. But they couldn't coexist in that time, in that space. And there are some decisions in our lives that are black and white. Much of it is gray, much of it is shades of gray. But in certain instances, you want this, you can't have that. You want to be on the road, you can't be a full-time stay-at-home dad. You want to be a full-time stay-at-home dad, you can't be on the road. And so I said, I'll give up this because this is more valuable to me. And since that day, I've shared this message with probably well over 100,000 people. We actually have a tool that can measure this thing up here, how you think, called the Value Operating System. You know, the most powerful device on the planet, those 6 inches up there. Wouldn't you like to know actually how it works? Yeah. We're walking around completely unconscious to how the most valuable and powerful operating system in the world, and we actually don't know how we think. And when I realized that there's a difference between what I think and how I think, and if I could harness how I think in 3 measures of that, what do I pay attention to, what are my biases, and how much clarity of thinking do I have, completely changed my entire life in every aspect of my life.
This guy can go on for a little bit.
Yeah.
He knows the stuff, and it's practical. It's absolutely practical. And I'd just say that one of the things that kicked it is we were studying together. He was graduating from our program back then. He lived in New Jersey. We were officed here in Solana Beach. His wife went into labor. He couldn't get home. He missed the birth of Adam. Got there the next day. Great story. And my nephew Adam is how old?
29.
That was 29 years ago.
Right. And the kicker was, I didn't even realize it until I got on the plane. He was born on my birthday.
On
the
his
little
birthday.
sucker wanted out. He was 10 days early.
So amongst all that stuff, relationships, collaboration, who do you hang out with? This is who I hang out with. I hang out with people smarter than me. Makes me look smart. Who do you hang out with? Any questions for Mitch before we wrap it, and then we're going to get off? Any questions for Mitch? You covered it pretty good.
What was the name of that tool for the?
It's called the Value Profile. If you guys want to get a taste of it, you go to soulrollgoal.com, SOULROLEGOAL.com.
Everybody, big round of applause for David Corbin and fantastic. Manny, come on up here. Everybody, big round of applause for Manny Lopez. Now, a few of you guys were here last time we did a mastermind, and a few new. So The thing that we announced last time was that Manny's From Orphan to CEO organization is one of City Gala's beneficiaries this year. So, Manny's the founder of this organization, critical mission, and I just want to dive into why you started the organization first, because it is just a phenomenal thing that you want to do, giving back to orphans like yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my story starts off, I was about 18 months old, 1989, and it's a cold winter. Me and my sister, who's just about a year older than me, are left in a car and basically abandoned. We're found by, I guess, somebody walking by, calling the police and saying, hey, there's two babies that are just like crying in a car. I think somebody should get them, right? And so the only kind of story I have from that day is a police report that says that these kids look like they've been living in a car, and the diapers have been soaked for days. So we ended up putting into foster care, where really things got pretty interesting. And you get put into a system. Anybody had any experience with the foster care system? Maybe a friend, family member, anything like that? Most of the time, I don't really find people that have fun stories from foster care. I myself, just a couple of years I was in the system, I was adopted and returned 7 different times. I had suffered everything from malnutrition, abuse, neglect, and even torture. I was left outside like an animal with animals. We would be brought in to our home late at night for some of these places that we would live at. We had one of my foster parents sold our bed that I would sleep on. I remember being about 3 years old, sleeping on the floor. It was really cold and bugs were crawling all over me. I mean, it just really wasn't fun. And the problem that I noticed is that 30 years later, I look back at the system that has not changed, not much. There's still kids. I mean, if you look at the statistics today, girls are 4 times likely to be abused. You have a 20% graduation rate in high school, and the one that really stuck out to me was that 2 out of 3 of these kids that age out of our system, they go through our foster care system, they basically go without being adopted, they turn 18 and now they're on their own. This is called aging out. Within just 1 year, 2 out of 3 of these kids are either dead, homeless, or in jail. My goal, and this kind of really became really clear to me on a January night. I'll go into it if you like. But it became really clear to me what my purpose was. And it wasn't to just work with celebrities and influencers and building apps and helping people on Facebook. You know, that's my skill. That's my opportunity that I can utilize to really fund my passion. My passion is to take that statistic, that 2 out of 3 that are dead, homeless, or in jail, and do what helped me, because I was in that same exact boat. When Isaac was barely, maybe 4 or 5 years old, I was 1 day away from being homeless. When Isaac was in diapers, I ended up becoming homeless. I was in that statistic, but I found what saved me, and that was mentorship and entrepreneurship. See, at 20 years old, I got this guy that came to me out of nowhere. I was at this 9-to-5 job, and he goes, you know, Manny, there's something special about you, something unique, something different. And he kind of took me under his wing before I even knew what the word mentor was. I was just basically lost, trying to make some money, just following what everybody else tells me to do. And these kids, they're being surrounded by people that are not successful. They're not having mentorship. They don't have, they don't even know what the word entrepreneurship really means. And I was in that same exact boat. But this mentor came to me. He instilled in me these values of being too blessed to be stressed. Build your own dream. Stop building somebody else's dream. He had me start listening to this guy by the name of Les Brown. Anybody heard of Les Brown? Right? He's a former orphan, if you don't know that. He was orphaned very young. He was adopted by Miss Mamie Brown, right? Everybody talks about that all the time. That's his adopted mother. And so my mentor said, you gotta listen to this guy. This guy's named Les Brown. He's made over $50 million plus in his career. He's super successful, and he's an orphan just like you. And that was my first moment of clarity, like, look, there's somebody that's like me that has created success, who's not, just living a 9-to-5 job, building somebody else's dream. It was like a crazy thought to me. And that was kind of my first step into entrepreneurship. Then I started reading books, started following mentors, started getting coaches, and where I'm at today, I'm a paid consultant to over 1,000 brands worldwide. I've been named one of the best by Facebook. I've got celebrity influencer clients. I work with people that, Les Brown wasn't just an idea for me. I now have him as a client and a friend. I work with people like Tai Lopez, and I've taken this influence, and it really became clear to me January 27, 2017. See, I had a kind of a fork in the road moment. Anybody ever have one of those moments? I mean, we kind of have an idea in our way. We're like, all right, do I go this way? Do I go this way? What's the route to choose? And I was at a fork in the road of my business where I was either going to go one way to make my life very difficult, where I would literally be within 60 days risking becoming homeless again. And it was a thing I promised my wife I would never, ever have to go through. And the other side of it is take the easy road. Just be consistent and stay where you're at. And I just didn't know where to go. I'm laying down on my bed one night, or during the day, and my wife's with me, and we're not talking. We're just sit there listening. And I'm kind of looking up, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And later on that night, I'm walking my dog real late, about midnight, and I get this voice in the back of my head. It says, Manny, keep walking. And it was just kind of weird to me, and I was just like, all right, let me put my dog away, and I'll keep walking. And I start getting this voice continues talking to me and saying, Manny, why are you doing this? Here's this path. And it was just really kind of an odd conversation I'd never had with myself. And I come from a very spiritual background. I grew up in the church. My grandmother was on the choir, but I've always thought God was too busy for me. He's not the type that would delegate any type of time to my small, insignificant life. And I've always chalked up every experience I had to, it's a family member, it's, passed on, it's a guardian angel maybe or something. And that night it was very different. I started asking questions. I go, what is my purpose? What am I here for? I'm not supposed to just make apps till the day I die and work with people on Facebook. What am I supposed to do? And as clear as day, it says, help the orphans. You have no fear. And that literally started a snowball effect of every kind of crazy opportunity that I've been able to come across since then. And it became clear to me who that conversation was with that night. I go to sleep. I have this crazy dream. I'm at the bottom of a mountain, and this mountain is on fire. And there's people running down this mountain, and it's just complete chaos. There's fire, there's ripped clothes, there's blood, and for some reason, I have no fear. I'm running up this mountain that's on fire, and I'm trying to figure out who's causing all this chaos. We have to stop this. There's got to be something we can do. I get up this mountain, and I see these, what I immediately thought of as creatures of chaos. And then it kind of hit me how this translates to the real world. There's so many people around us that are dealing with these creatures of chaos. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be abuse from people in their life, it could be just this chaos that we deal with in our lives. And most people are running away from it. Most people are confused at what to do. And they're running down this mountain of fire of trying to get away with it when there's people that can go there and they can step in front of it and say, here's the solution. So when I see these kids, these 2 out of 3 kids that are dead, homeless, in jail, these are the kids that are running down this mountain on fire. They're running away from the abuse. They're running away from the chaos. I mean, one of the most powerful stories I heard was a guy by the name of Lauren Harris. I had him speak at my event. He's a former foster kid himself. And he tells a story of when he first got into foster care. He was very young, about 5 to 7 years old. He gets there, and these 3 boys are there. Adam, Andrew, and I think Alex. I can't remember the third one. But each of these kids are all under 10 years old. He gets there, and it's his first day. His mom had just gotten arrested, and he's got no family to take care of him. He's traumatized, right? He just got taken away from his family. I mean, this is the process that these kids go through. Maybe their parents just got in an accident. There's no one to take care of them. They're ripped from their family, put into a stranger's home, and said, these are the people that are now going to take care of you. These are the people that are going to keep you safe. We see Lauren went in that day. The 3-year-old boy comes up to him, one of the little kids, and he says, I just want to give you kind of a rundown of what's going to happen. You see, there's a man that lives in this house, and he's not a very nice man. And you see that wall over there. You know, behind that mattress that you see against the wall is a little room that he takes these little boys in. And he likes the little boys, and especially the new ones. So more than likely tonight, he's going to come in this room, and it's not going to be fun, but you're going to get through it. And basically, this 3-year-old kid became his mentor to try and get him to understand the chaos that he's going to be going through. Fast forward many years, he gets out of the system. He goes back to his social worker and he says, I like to find these boys that help me get through all of this chaos and just thank them for keeping me alive and all of this nonsense. So the social worker does the research. She finds these 3 boys. And she goes, Lauren, I have to give you some bad news. You see, all 3 of these boys are now dead. You see, the first one was strangled by his foster parent with a garden hose. The second one, the young one, that 3-year-old, by the time he was 7, he had ran away. And they stopped looking for him. And they never found him. And the third one, well, he was in a high-speed chase. He had stolen his foster dad's truck and ended up crashing it into a tree because his eyes were so swollen from being beaten that he could not see. And he was really just trying to escape the abuse. And see, there's stories like this that are happening every single day, and it's not in a third world country. It's in our own backyard. It's in our own cities, in our own neighborhoods. And these kids are missing that. They're missing mentorship and entrepreneurship, and that's what From Orphan to CEO is going to provide. It's a program that I've created where I literally take kids that are aging out of foster care, and we give them a complete scholarship to understanding business. I created a whole course they can access all through an app. I mean, I'm an app developer, right? So I think, well, what do kids are accessing? What are they doing all day? Well, they're staring at their phones all the time. They're on social media. They're watching videos on YouTube, right? They're not doing the things that us, growing up, whether it's, 30s, 40s, 50 years old, 60 or above, where we have a different way of consuming content. These kids, they love apps. They love content. They love being able to understand things and do things on their own, and that's what this program's about. I give them all the intellectual property, everything I've learned over the last 7 years on how to start a business. I have a program called Network of Influence where I literally connect them with experts that are getting results in their business, whether it's investors, whether it's people that help them with ads or marketing, whatever have you, anything to do with business. And then we literally help them launch that business. Like, for example, our first ever student that went through our program, she's in high school, hasn't even graduated yet. And I told her, don't spend any money. She wanted to start a fashion line. She's like, I want to start a fashion business. And I'm like, well, how would you do that? She's like, I got to go buy a bunch of fabric. I mean, they're thinking the old school methods. I showed her how to start a Shopify store where she didn't have to pay for any product up front. She could partner with brands that already create the products. I mean, there's a whole fun stuff to go with it. But at the end of the day, within her 2-week trial, she had 12 new customers, over $200 in profit, and didn't spend a dime on her business. I mean, if you could teach somebody that hasn't done anything at all and never even understood what a word entrepreneurship is, to be able to make sales before a free trial on a Shopify account starts, I mean, that's the excitement I have, and that's what this program is.
How about a round of applause for Manny?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? Questions for Manny? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have to ask, because you asked earlier, do you find opportunity to follow or passion to follow?
So I learned this. I originally would always say, follow your passion. You gotta love what you turn your passion into a business. But realizing this funny story a friend told me, he was like, okay, think about this super welder guy. He's like been welding for 30 years and he's like really good at it, but he doesn't love it, right? That's his skill. And he's always like, man, I love cupcakes. Oh man, if I could just bake cupcakes all day, that would be my thing. I would love to do that. It's his passion, right? So the guy makes a little bit of money in his welding business, and he goes to some personal development conference, and they tell him, go follow your passion, right? He goes to start that business, and this is literally why 97% of businesses fail. They're following their passion instead of their skill built with an opportunity. So one of the things this guy told me, which is a billionaire, he goes, I love it when people are saying follow their passion. It makes my job so much easier. There's no competition out there, right? Squeeze the life out of an opportunity that will fund your passion. Then you don't have to worry about turning that passion into a business. It's just fun and it's just joy. But I wanted to finish that one part about that conversation I had. Now this is where it really twisted for me, because that morning I wake up from that dream and I wake up my wife. I'm like, babe, you won't believe what happened last night. I had a conversation with God. And she was like, wait, what? Tell me what happened. Da, da, da. And I'm explaining to her what happened and the whole story, and she starts crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? This is like a great story, right? She goes, well, when you were laying on the bed yesterday, looking up the ceiling kind of lost, I was literally praying for you, that God would reveal himself to you and give you clarity and give you the answer. I had that conversation with him, and ever since then, I mean, within a month, I'm recording with Ty Lopez in his studio for me to be his teacher on mobile apps in his courses. Exclusive teacher on mobile apps. From there, I have a radio show. Now I'm in works with a TV show. I'm literally in talks right now with Netflix to get my show on there. I mean, it's just weird how the opportunities just keep falling in my lap. And then Ryan calls me randomly one day and says, hey, Manny, would you like to be beneficiary for the City Gala next year? We just want to cut you a giant check for coming to help us out. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this wouldn't be happening if all I was focusing on was making money and making apps. I did that for 4 straight years, made great money and doing what I did, but it gave me no joy. It was kind of like having that, that soul thing missing. And combining my passion for what I want to do, that I could care less how it's funded. It gets funded by my opportunity, right? My skill set. People love that I can help them with, Facebook and apps and stuff like that. And I literally just say, okay, let me take part of that and I'll fund my entire project. I don't have to ask for, funding in that side of it. I can literally take an opportunity and fund my passion with it.
Very good. Big round of applause for Manny. All right, guys, we're going to have a quick little break. It's 5:05. We're going to be back here at 5:15. What time?
5:15.
5:15. Thank you. All right. I need some water.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Let's see.